Hi everyone. As part of this problem, we have the input data set as fruitsindia.csv. This data set has three columns: FNO, which is the fruit number, fruit, which is the name of the fruit, and season, that is the season in which the fruit is available. So as we see, these are the records that we have. Now, as part of the output, we need to fetch around 30% of records from the given data set, and we have to write the data to the table fruits sample, and we need to store the data in ORC format in this table. So let's get going and solve this problem. So as a first step, we will read this data set, that is fruitsindia.csv. So let's create the corresponding data frame. So we will read this data. The data is in the format of CSV. We will add the path for this data set. So let's get the path from the DBFS. So it is stored in the file store. Okay. And we will paste this path. And we will specify the schema for this file. So there are three columns. Let's get the names of those columns from here. And we will use this for creating the schema. So as we see, this is an integer. FNO, fruit is a string, and season is also a string, that is a text value. So accordingly, we will specify the schema. Then we will load this data set and see the output as to what has been loaded. So let's run and see this. So we have loaded the input data set correctly. Now as we see here, there are 10 records present. We need to fetch 30% of the records, that is around 3 records, for which we will be using random sampling. Now, one thing to note is the random sampling is not accurate. Like when we are looking for 3 records here, it will definitely not get 3 records. It will be around 3 records. So as we execute, we will understand. So what we will do is we will use one of the Spark SQL functions. So for that, we need to add the require import. So let's do that quickly. Okay, let's run this. Okay, now let's add the sampling here on the input data frame. We will use the sample function for that. And since we require 30%, we will specify it as 0.3. So what we will do is we will try to see the data and see the behavior of this function. So ideally 30% of 10 records is 3 records. So let's see what happens. So as we see, we have got 3 records. But if we run again, each run will fetch different records, but it will not guarantee that we will get only 3 records. On a larger data set, this function is very useful to get random records for testing so that we have mixed records present for good testing. So now what we will do is we will store this data into another data frame. Let's call it as result data frame. So we will store the data in this data frame, and let's display the data as well in this data frame. We have missed the equal to sign. Okay. So we have got 2 records. Now the requirement is once we have generated the 30% of records, we need to store it in a table, that is fruits sample. So let's work on that. So we have the 30% records around that is generated. Now we will work on storing this into the table. So we will use the write API of the Spark. So we will use the write. Let's specify the mode as overwrite. That is, each time this is executed, clean the data of the files and rewrite the data. So we have specified the mode as overwrite. Then we will specify the format as ORC, as that is the requirement. To store the data in the table in the ORC format. So we have done that, and now let's mention save as table, and let's specify the table name as fruits sample as given in the requirement. So we are adhering to the requirement. We have specified the format as ORC and we are writing the data in this table. So let's go ahead and get this executed. So this has executed, and now what we will do is we will go ahead and verify what is the data inside this table. First of all, we will verify from here itself. So let's use the magic command of %SQL, as this is a Scala notebook and we want to write in a different language like SQL in this case. So that's why we are using the magic command. And now we will mention the table query. So select star from fruits sample. So let's run and see the output to see if the data is present in this table. So yes, this is what was created in the random sampling in the result data frame, and this is what has been exactly written into the table. Another thing was we had to write the data in ORC format. So let's verify that as well. To verify that, we will run the command describe extended on this table fruits sample. So let's run this and see the metadata, which will confirm if the underlying data is in ORC format. So as we see, the provider is ORC. So this confirms that the underlying data is present in the ORC format. And whatever tables are created, we can go to the catalog and see it under database tables. Based on the database name, we can see the tables inside that. In our case, it is default database. So the table is present inside it. If we click on the table, it will show the schema and some sample data. Here, it is showing the 3 columns and the data that is present. So this way we can check and confirm the table is rightly created. So let's go back and do a quick summary of how we have achieved the requirement. Okay, so initially what we have done is we have used the Spark read API to read the data set. We have specified the schema, loaded the file and explored the data. After that, we have used random sampling to get 30% of the records, and we have stored the records in result data frame. After that, using this data frame, we have written the data set by specifying the mode as overwrite. So each time we run this, the table will be refreshed and the underlying data will be in ORC format, and this is the table name. And finally, we can check the data whether it is properly loaded. Further on, we have used the describe extended command to check whether the underlying data is in ORC format, which we have verified in the provider column. Now we can quickly rerun this again and refresh the data. So if we run this again with a new sample, we have got now watermelon and guava. So let's refresh the table to see that override functionality is working fine. So the table has been refreshed. Let's check if mango and guava gets replaced. let's see the data now. So the data has been updated. So this way we have achieved the functionality that was mentioned. So please go through it. The content of the dataset will be mentioned as part of the video description. If you found the video useful, please like it. If you have not yet
Like,
subscribed the
comment,
channel,
and
please subscribe
subscribe.
and please share the video in your friend circle so that more people can benefit. Thank you.